always, I think there's a real sense of compassion. And one of the things I think is important to continue to teach to boys, especially at this age, is that aspect of empathy.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
We define ourselves as a family school, and I have the delight each day to work with a wonderful group of boys from JK to 8 who come from very committed families. So there's a real sense of inquisitiveness, a real sense of energy in the building each day. Secondly, I think our parent community is phenomenal, and it is it's exciting each day to come in. Parents are welcome in our building each day, and it's a lot of fun to see them, and they are really invested in their sons' educations. So it a lot of positive conversations. And last but definitely not least, I'm privileged to work with some real professionals in the building who take pedagogy to heart, and they're able to fulfill their vocations as teachers here at Northmount. Maybe a little bit of story behind that is I actually, in my teacher training, trained to be junior intermediate, grade 4 to grade 10. But my career actually as a teacher began in the high school, as did my in my transition into administration. So coming back to an elementary panel, in the independent system at Northmount, really in some ways came full circle. And Northmount provided an opportunity to work with young minds, and I do believe a lot of the development of the boys, how they set and girls for that matter at this age, how they set themselves up for the future happens in the elementary panel, in the elementary school, and so it was really an exciting opportunity to come back and really at the grassroots level begin to build a team here at Northmount that was going to influence the next generation of leaders. And I think, arriving at Northmount 6 years ago, Northmount was on the, on a growth plan, and so to help lead that growth plan, build the school up, has really been an exciting challenge that we continue to do to this day. The day never ends, but I say that in the most polite way and in the most exciting way is, I think when you're in education, there's always the mind is always working of ways to connect with students and with families. But on a very logistical, practical level, I usually arrive here at 7:30. As I said earlier, we really would like families. I know that may sound a little bit strange, but we enjoy having families in our building. And so whether it's at 7:30 as families drop off, in that first little while, it's nice to see the families. And then at about 8 o'clock, we, myself and a couple of the other administrators, head out to the curb and we meet all of our families and welcome them in each day. And so that takes us till about 8:30, where we have our opening assembly. As a Catholic school, we proudly, say the Our Father to begin. But at morning assembly, we take into account intentions for the day, do the national anthem, any announcements. Our day is set up really 10 periods of about 35 minutes. And that's done. Lunch is a bit longer. And then some courses are strategically 2 periods, but we are very boy-centric in our learning. So that, having the boys in the classroom with the energy they have, focusing on a new concept, getting an opportunity to explore that concept, answer some questions, and then moving on to something else is really good for developing their attention span and getting them focused for a while. every day the boys have phys ed, which is a good thing. And we finish up school during the day. There's supervisory periods that we all have. I still teach. I think it's important that administrators teach, and not only to connect with the boys, but also with their faculty members and the staff, so that everybody's in, rowing oars together, as they say. And so that, that's part of the day. There's often, meetings that comes with the territory, and seeing the families. And then at day's end, we have a strong co-curricular program here at the school, whether that's clubs, whether that's the arts, music, and visual arts, or we have a strong athletic program as well, of which we all coach. So proud to be a volleyball coach here at school. And and then usually the day practices end about 5 or so, and there's some wrap up things, and probably hit the exit around 6 o'clock or so. It really is. I find it energizing and exciting to really interact with the boys and the families and the faculty and staff each day. Faculty and staff, we see teaching as a vocation, and regardless of the position, first and foremost, we're all teachers. We begin in the JK program, so they come in as 4-year-olds, and I think one of the nice parts about Northmount being a small school, and we are purposefully small. We would like every student in grade 8 to know every student in JK, and vice versa. So the boys really provide mentorship for each other, and they provide role modeling for each other in the truest sense of the word. They're in the same playground. The grade 8s will often, oversee the, or work with the younger boys, whether, it's doing some, quote unquote supervision at recess under the auspices of one of the teachers out there. But that JK, the development of a young boy, ideally into a young man with character, is one of the things that we really put an emphasis on here at Northmount. So, developing, values in life and morals, to be those, strong leaders who are able to make decisions in the future, is what we're trying to help our boys become. Again, that's something I'm very proud of, is we have very, very little turnover. We have, in the past couple of years, we've had retirements. There's at times there's a teacher that might leave for moving to another country, or moving to another part of the city. But the turnover, one a year might be considered high. In elementary school, I was in a co-ed school, and then went to an all boys independent Catholic high school. And so I come to a single sex all boys school through my own experience, and I think the benefits that I received out of it. But I think there's educational theory on a number of levels that speaks to the differences on how, especially at younger ages, but I think right through high school, especially is how different boys and girls learn. And I think I'm the proud father of 3 daughters at home, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, their learning style and their opportunities to learn were equally as good, but quite different than I see the boys getting here in an all boys school. I started as a teacher in I think September of 94. And, I was a graduate of a concurrent education program at York University. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It really, having the 4 years in the program and 3 years of practice teaching, I think really provided a wonderful opportunity to hit the ground running when I got my own class. I started in public Catholic education in Pickering with the Durham Catholic School Board. And then my opportunity to go back to my alma mater and teach at my high school at St. Mike's was a great opportunity for me, and something that I really enjoyed. I spent 17 years at St. Mike's, and went into administration back in 2001, and loved my time at St. Michael's College School. And there was an opportunity to kind of forge a new path, and that brought me to Northmount. And on the academic side, I've really seen, education. I think you always want to be a lifelong learner as an educator, or at least that's what we all profess. But I've always taken that to heart, and I pursued a master's and then a doctorate of philosophy and educational leadership. I would identify our student government president this year, who has really taken to heart, our our mascot, our team logo is the Northmount Knight, and so we talk about knights being gentlemen. We talk about them being men of service. We talk about them being men of character, and I think our student government president has done every one of them. He's a strong student in the classroom academically, but not just numbers wise. He's a great role model, but he's also a young man who will help others reach their best, sometimes being asked or without being asked. I think he's also an individual who has gone outside of his comfort zone, taken on play roles in the school play, athletically roles on teams where he's developed a real sense of leadership, and the students look up to him. But I think equally as important, his development of character, helped create really 3 initiatives this year, of which he was a part of, and he took specific leadership in helping with the Fred Victor charity for the homeless. And so we did, under his auspices, the whole student government we did a cinnamon bun fundraiser, and all of the money, because we were locked down in COVID at certain times, he took the initiative and went out and purchased all of the toiletry bags and the materials for the literally over probably about $1,300 worth of toothbrushes, toothpaste, etc. for the homeless charity. As well, there was a knapsack for Kenya drive that we did, that he was a key part in. Our Thanksgiving food drive, our Christmas baskets, we at Northmount, we do a drive every year in coordination with the student government and the parent association, where we help support families, single mother families, and we create a basket for them of gifts and food, gift certificates, etc. So there's that whole idea of bringing, recognizing the gifts that we have in life, and making sure that we try to make other people's lives better, is something that this one individual stands out. And there's many that I could speak of, but whether it's faculty or staff and parents, but it's really nice to be able to identify a student who's done that. That is something that we continue to foster here at Northmount. That's an important aspect of our school. There's nothing better than when you can look at, show a role model who's graduated out of the school, and can be looked upon by the boys that are here, as somebody who has found success. And that success, we have a number of students that come back during their high school days and visit the school. And I can say, at least from my memory, that's not something a lot of students did for their elementary school, but I think there's a real piece of our school becomes a part of the boys' heart here. And so they carry that with them forward. And I think that that always moves them to come back. And I think it's also a comment on the wonderful relationships that our students have with our faculty members. That we have an advising program here where each student is connected with one of the teachers, and they meet at least once a month every year while they're here, just to talk about life, to make sure they're on the right path, to talk about any concerns. We talk about the virtue of the month and that, but it's really just a grassroots conversation about how are things going, friendships, excitement, concerns in their life. And that, I think, is the impetus for real relationships that develop between faculty and staff and students. So when the students go off, we're very, very fortunate. We have good relationships with many of the independent schools here in Toronto, and I think our students. I'm proud to say that our students are highly sought after. And so when they go on to those high schools, it's really nice that they come back, obviously, to talk about their successes and the process of getting in. But our alumni even extend beyond the high school, obviously, and it's nice when former people who are now working come back, or individuals who are at university come back to get some of that advising or that mentorship from the teachers here. We have alumni who sit on our board. We have former families. Alumni in some sense also includes parents. And so many of our board members are former parents who recognize the value of what a Northmount education meant for their young man, and they want to make sure that they give back or have their sons continue to give back, down the road as well. And so, like any alumni association or alumni connection, keeping keeping in tune with the pulse of what's going on out there is important. I think to answer that question honestly, I think it's a family that's drawn. We from the very beginnings of Northmount and in its infancy, I off the top, I think I used the word family school, and we do firmly believe that the primary educators of a young man or a young girl, a young lady is are the parents. So the education here at Northmount is we on a very practical level, we work hand in hand with parents to bring out the very best in our boys. And that's and I don't say that as some cliche. As I said, we like parents in our building. There are parents in the classrooms often reading to the boys as part of the the guest, the anonymous guest, parent who shows up. So I think it's a family that is looking to be engaged with their son's education, and with Northmount offers an advanced curriculum. And what I mean by that is most of the subjects, it's easier to define in the sciences and the maths, where we teach a year ahead. And we find that again, within the Northmount perspective, we're trying to raise the bar for boys. Boys, I think I think the provincial stats seem to indicate that boys are falling behind, and we are raising. So if you look at EQA scores or that, we're proud of our EQA scores. They're not the be all and end all for us, but we're proud of our scores. But we are raising the bar for boys on an academic level, and we want them to work hard in the classroom. And then in a co-curricular environment, we want them to play hard. And so that's, we think that's a wonderful recipe for success for boys. Like every school, we have the resources in place to help those who may have a learning disability. And what we're looking for, not, I wouldn't sit here and profess that every student walks out as a complete A student. I mean, we're looking to help every young man be the best that he can be, every boy be the best that he can be, and to find the academic success that he's capable of. Now, having said that, there is the accelerated, or the accelerated program. So there is a benchmark that they need to continue to achieve, and helping them find that is important for both the success and the and the internal development of the boy, as much as it is on the number side. The culture at Northmount is something that we work hard at every day. And, in my 6 years here, especially in a school of all boys, um, you know, there are understandable rules and parameters that every school has, but there really is, I think the students honestly see each other as brothers. We have the boys are paired up over the course of the year. We have big brother, little brother, events that we run throughout the school year. So there are students obviously that are matched up, but I think it's a really caring environment and a culture that is created to help each boy be their best. We have houses in the school, so the boys, there's a sense of belonging that each student has. We have, you know, the adage that we talk about is no student eats alone. So there's, always, I think there's a real sense of compassion. And one of the things I think is important to continue to teach to boys, especially at this age, is that aspect of empathy. And so, developing an understanding and care for one another is really what drives our culture. And that begins with the relationship with parents too, is, you know, we're clear on what we're trying to develop. And so that when parents come in as part of our school, this isn't a school, and it's certainly not mandated, but, you know, we're not the school that we want your son dropped off at 8:30 and picked up at 4 and, you know, thank you. We want, a real family feel here where we're all looking out for each other. From the get-go, I'm not sure if there's any chance of success if there isn't a three-way partnership um, in education. If the school and the parents and the young man, and by the school I obviously mean not just admin but the faculty and the staff, if we're not working in tandem with each other, then I'm not quite sure that you will find the success that everybody's hoping for. And so on a very active level, Northmount, we have a parents association, we have class coordinators as kind of official opportunities for the school to interact with parents. But on a day-to-day basis, whether it's at the beginning, many of our parents stick around to listen to our morning assembly. We have parents in the school at the end of the day before the final bell rings, where they can just touch base with the teachers. They can touch base with admin, and that's not always, you know, oftentimes I think as perhaps people on the outside of the community may see that as, that's, what types of questions are asked or what are concerns. It's not always concerns. Sometimes as we build this community, it's just, how are things? How's your family doing? And so there's a relationship building that happens because of that creates the family at Northmount. And so, we take that, the communication piece, again, both formally, whether it's through our platform of communication at the school and the emails and that, but it's also the day-to-day communication with parents. And yes, it's letting parents know if there's areas of concern and areas that we need to focus on, but it's also celebrating the successes each and every day that sometimes can get overlooked. Especially at this age, it's helping, when we talked earlier about developing that empathy and compassion, it really is about helping the boys sit down and discuss what's transpired. And I think that every school has its rules, every school has its parameters. And the boys, if something happens where somebody's lost their cool or lost their temper, that we need to help. There can be consequences, but there's a learning process that goes along with that. And sometimes the consequence is the discussion as to how did this happen? What were the mitigating circumstances that started it? And, why were, why did you get angry at the end and say, A, B, or C? And so part of developing that sense of empathy and compassion is, okay, you know what? Student A may have said something, but student B may have done something 5 minutes before that may not have understood, created the conflict in the first part. So I think there's a real sense of trying to get to the bottom of what's transpired. And at the end of the session or the discussion, you know, my experience has been that the boys they realize they're both Northmount Knights, and they get it. And sometimes it's a fist pump, sometimes it's a handshake, and you know, but there's a real sense, I think, at the end of it of, hey, listen, I shouldn't have said that to you, I was wrong, and we move forward. If I was to describe Northmount as a person, it would be kind, learned, character filled, strong in faith, and creative. One of the driving forces at Northmount, and this certainly comes, we're a Catholic school, but we are open to families of all faith or no faith. And so, interestingly enough, obviously, many families come because we're Catholic. Many come because we're not Catholic, or sorry, many come who aren't Catholic because we are Catholic, and that's because of that character piece. And I think the fundamental human virtues of responsibility, integrity, honesty, compassion, responsibility, those are all things that people want to see develop in their children, especially in their boys here. And so that character piece is a fundamental part of who we are at Northmount. And as I said earlier, when we were talking about, or I was mentioning about our advising program, each day, the last period of the day, is a character period. And so that is, there's a very formal focus on character. There's a discussion at the end of the day. Yes, part of it is getting the homework ready, but part of getting organized is character. And so there's a focus kind of each minute of that character period on getting the boys ready for their home, understanding that they've got responsibilities when they head home, but it's also unwinding from the day and talking about the day, all the good things that happened, and if there were areas as a class that, whether the class was left messy, or Sam didn't have his lunch, but John stepped up and helped him. So there's a focus on the day, the good things that happened, areas that we want to work on. As I said, we do a virtue of the month, and there's a constant review day to day in a formal nature, but informally, of what are the important character traits and values to carry forward in life so that you can be proud of yourself, but be a real service, both in faith, but in general in society. As boys who grow into the men become more in touch with the ability to be empathetic and compassion, I think that's fundamentally important moving forward. And then that our opinion here at Northmount is, it's not the cliche or the hot button item of character, the word character development or whatever. We think it needs to be done every day. One of the aspects of Northmount that I think takes on an important piece or an important perspective of the school is service. We and I'll speak outside of our COVID, although I'm really proud of what we did this year. Each year we take on a number of charitable organizations that we want to help out with, and the first one is the Thanksgiving food drive. So we do that in the fall. There's also we work with the Sisters of Life to do Christmas baskets for single mother families, and then there's usually another. We've done Noah's Ark in the past, so there's usually a bake sale to help out with Noah's Ark. This year we did two different ones. We were really, and this came from student government. We're really proud. One was the knapsacks for Kenya, and it was really filling up knapsacks that were no longer in use and just sitting in the house with books and pencils on that. And they were going to be shipped over to Kenya. And last but not least, but one I mentioned earlier that really proud of the school and certainly proud of our student government and the president for taking on was the Fred Victor charity for the homeless, where there was a fundraiser for that, and a number of items put in a bag for each person to take, and so that was great. But on top of that, we our choirs will often at Christmas time go out to some of the seniors' homes and do a Christmas carol, sing along with them, and that I think has been really well received as well. There's a lot about what information and the head will tell you. I don't mean head of school. I mean, your own, everybody's mind will send them in a direction, but let your heart speak to you too. And I think finding that, you asked about culture before, and it's finding that school culture, looking at how the faculty and staff interact with your boys or girls, if that's your child, looking at how the faculty and staff, and I include myself in that, so admin, faculty and staff, how they interact with parents. And it's really about a relationship. It's not just about books. It's not just about knowledge. You're really looking for an opportunity to have your son or daughter, in Northmount's case, it's boys. So to have your son come to a place that becomes a home away from home.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.